prayers that some of us, including me, shouted to our Lord. The magistrate and the prosecutor failed the fourth man in the fire. And he was released. He also holds a record of having more than 200 lawyers volunteering. He also holds a record of being accused of being sponsored by the West. When all he uses is body bundles. He is a man who has greatly contributed in restoring the voices of many Zimbabweans. He has restored the pride of the flag. For many people nowadays, the flag is now a badge of resistance and pride. But 2 months back, it was a shame to be seen walking with that flag. But without wasting any time, may you please stand up.
I love that song because it is a song that our fathers and mothers authored in defiance of colonial oppression. And it is a song that my generation proudly takes up as well today, without fear. To also say the same thing, that we will not put up with injustice, we will not put up with corruption, and we will not put up with man-made poverty. Good evening, my fellow citizens of the Republic of Zimbabwe, citizens of the nation of South Africa, indeed citizens of other nations, good evening and thank you for being with us here tonight. My name is Mawarire. I am a son, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a pastor, I'm a friend, and I'm a citizen of the beautiful country that we call Zimbabwe.
Come on now.
The name Zimbabwe, for those that are not Zimbabwean, means house of stone. It is the name of our nation and it infers stability. It suggests fortitude and it reflects the quality of natural strength. Named alongside the great Zimbabwe historical city of Munumutapa in Mashingo, Zimbabwe is supposed to be an unmistakable, majestic, towering bastion of regional and continental brilliance. Zimbabwe is supposed to be the center cog of our region's economic, cultural, and academic machinery. But much to our shame, we are unrecognizable as a nation. Our economy's output resembles a result worse than a money game played between boozers when they are not only drunk but broke. Why, just a few days ago, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange recorded trading figures for a full day of trading of $105. Our much-learned graduates and pristine human capital has either been forcibly migrated or uncaringly degraded. Our hospitals now abandoned by the very people who oversee them as they prefer the medical infrastructure from other nations are death camps and not recovery rooms. In Zimbabwe, our pensioners have returned to back-breaking work after years of retiring because they lost their life savings when a few people decided to take their money and replace it with monopoly money. What have we done to the men and women who worked so hard all their lives to put us through school? What have we done to the men and women who put their guns down after the War of Liberation and picked up pens and books so that you and I could drink clean water from a tap? What have we done to them? Our land has been polluted for decades by the ghastly river of corruption that finds its source within the corridors of power and trickles down to the streets where it mercilessly infects the lives of the ordinary citizen.
Powerful.
How tragic it is that we in Zimbabwe record one of the highest occurrences of orphans on the planet who end up going without food, shelter, and education simply because a few people just could not be bothered to have the decency to stop stuffing our nation's money into their pockets. To all this, we say no, and not anymore. This is truly an unprecedented time in Zimbabwe. And as we say today, what a time to be Zimbabwean. There is a sense of something truly powerful moving in the hearts of Zimbabweans. Catastrophe has been our story for far too long. And now we need courageous men and women and children to help us rewrite our future. I say rewrite our future because currently our future has already been written and the book doesn't end well. Chapter after chapter is filled with stories of heartbreak and anguish. Our story is punctuated by injustice, corruption, and abuse. How do you explain $15 billion that goes missing and not a single person is held accountable? We say no and not anymore. The story of Zimbabwe started as a promising story, but now it has been reduced to a tale of horror and unimaginable disappointment. We as citizens who are willing to stand up and say no, not anymore to the direction that our country is headed. Our brothers and sisters in civil service are being mistreated. They go for months without being paid their full salaries. Their pay dates are changed at the drop of a hat. How can one plan to raise a family under such conditions? Not anymore. This will not be part of our future. Our relatives in medical services, doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers, they have been shortchanged too. They face uncertainty over their pay dates. Their standard of healthcare has deteriorated through no fault of those who work there, but rather through government mismanagement. And we say no, not anymore. Atichada. our friends in the informal sector, people that have created their own jobs, taxi drivers, market traders, small business owners, are harassed daily by the continued failure of government policy, and even by our own police for simply trying to make an honest living. When will this government be able to admit? And this whole thing just began by asking them to admit they do not have the ability to admit failure. It is a fact, even in their face, that indigenization has failed. Not because it is not important, but because they made it about themselves, all 7 of them. It is a fact that in Zimbabwe that only 7 people can buy brand new cars. It's a shame what we call a brand new car in Zimbabwe is a 1999 vehicle that is imported from Singapore. That's what we call a new car. It is a shame in my nation that when somebody gets a passport, it is cause for celebration. When you get a visa, we throw a party because we say Shaku Shaita. As a pastor, it became impossible for me to remain silent. And for years, Zimbabweans, that has been our modus operandi. To hold our peace, to manage the pain, and to wear the badge of resilience with pride. And yes, we are resilient people. But we have discovered that we are also a people that will not tolerate to be treated as people that do not think and people that cannot see.
That's good.
I put it to you today, Wits, that a new generation has now arisen in the nation of Zimbabwe. Indeed, across the planet, everyone who calls himself a Zimbabwean has come to the place where they say enough is enough. And if it means laying my life on the line to see a change that will benefit me maybe for 1 minute and hopefully a lifetime for my children, then that life must now be laid down. Not anymore will we sit back and watch elected officials fatten their pockets whilst our hopes get slimmer. Not anymore will we live in crowded ghettos while our sweat pays for plush government mansions. Not anymore. Not anymore will we continue to work and earn tax dollars for our government to spend on endless foreign trips and trips for elected officials that fly to Singapore and Malaysia and Dubai for medical treatment while we are left to die in under-equipped state hospitals. What sort of hypocrisy is this? I was told a story that resembles the way in which we deal with situations in Zimbabwe. A man became married and he used to love his drink. His wife said to him, as part of the conditions of the new marriage, she would require him to desist from drinking. Well, the young man agreed. After a couple of months, he went away with some friends. And whilst they were at the pub, he tried his best to resist, but eventually he gave in. And he had won. 1 became 2. 2 became 3. And then 3 became 4. As he left the pub, the barman looked at him and said, "I'm quite sure your wife said you must not drink." He looked at the barman and convinced him, tried to convince him, whilst he was half drunk, and he said, "Bro, What I would say one now, I would not drink. I would drink when it gets home. I am a genuine pastor. And so the man put this bottle in his back pocket and off he walked. When he got home, just by the door, he stumbled, fell backwards. The bottle cracked and cut him in the hindquarters. He thought to himself, how do I hide this from my wife? For she shall certainly see. And so he snuck into the house and snuck into the bathroom, where he proceeded to clean himself using the full-length mirror that was there. He carefully cleaned, he carefully put ointment, and eventually put on some plaster. Convinced he had done a good job, he went and jumped into bed. Early in the morning, his wife woke up, went into the bathroom, and came back screaming at the top of her voice. And she said, you have been drinking, and yet I told you not to. He was surprised. How did she know? Because he felt he had covered it up so well. She called him into the bathroom, and this man with a convincing face looked at her and said, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drinking. She pointed to the full-length mirror, and right there on the mirror was all the ointments, was all the bandages, was all the plasters stuck on the full-length mirror. Because the man was so drunk. This is what our government has done to us. They fix wounds in the mirror. They place ointment on wounds that are in the mirror. And they come to bed with us and pretend that nothing happened. And when we wake up, they expect us to walk into the bathroom and see nothing wrong and walk out and say we didn't see anything. Not anymore. We see the wound. You have been drinking our economy down, and we see the mess that you have done. We can no longer sit back and watch the children of ministers fly off to universities in America and Europe, Australia, and all these faraway places, while our state-run universities wither and crumble. We can no longer watch our brothers and sisters walk for miles because they can't afford 50 cents for a taxi, while the government buys its ministers $200,000 cars with our money. One of our cabinet ministers boasted in recent weeks when he was confronted about the use of state resources to buy himself and his deputy vehicles worth $200,000. And he said it is common practice. It is common practice, he said. He rationalized that when a country is broke and cannot pay its civil servants, it's common practice to spend $200,000 on luxury cars for himself and his deputy. Not that the ones they had were broken. He went on to say that, am I a garden boy? And the citizens of Zimbabwe are supposed to sit back and say it's okay. Many people have approached me and they've said, but sir, you are a pastor. Why would you say these things? Why would you rise up and say these things? Should you not mind your Bible? First and foremost, before I was a pastor, I was a citizen. And if I vote, then I speak. And because I'm a pastor, when issues of injustice arise, when issues of those that are voiceless, those that cannot stand up for themselves, when those people are being oppressed, I cannot justify my silence. How can I sleep well at night? When I drive home, I drive along a road which is named Robert Mugabe Road. I kid you not, this is a fact. Please hear me. This is not theatrics. I drive along Robert Mugabe Avenue at 7 or 8 p.m. and along that very road, on the pavements of that very road, not many other roads, that particular road, on the pavements at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., at 11, at 1 in the morning, on the pavements of those roads, I see old women lying on the street, huddling little babies that are not theirs. These are grandchildren with a blanket, and they're covering their vegetables. Not that they don't have a home to go to. They didn't make enough profit to go home that day. So they have to sleep in Robert Mugabe Avenue. You tell me that it's okay to be quiet? Shame on you if you're a minister in our country. Shame on you if you're a leader in our country and that does not break your heart. Shame on you if you love Zimbabwe, if you can walk past an orphanage that has not received help from government for years. And citizens are the ones that have to put their monies together in churches, in societies, in families, and go and feed those orphans. Are they not our children too? Is this Zimbabwe not a country that we are building for them too? So why would we treat them like that?
No, it can't.
Why would we travel and we say we are from Zimbabwe? Why would you travel and be proud to call yourself a leader from this nation when you cannot care? When you cannot care for us. I rise up because I have children. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I have another on the way. And if I don't stand up right now, political inbreeding will make sure that the same system will abuse my children and will ravage the future of my children. And I am not prepared. Oh, they say, oh yeah, you know, he needs to leave Zimbabwe. He needs to get out. He needs to go away. And then they wrote and they said, no, he's gone to seek exile. Where? My country is Zimbabwe. That is my home. It is my home. I live there. If you're going to arrest me, you will arrest me at home. If you are going to kill me, you will kill me at home. If you are going to abuse me, you will abuse me at home. Nobody cares. Let me tell you something, my fellow Zimbabweans, citizens of other nations, nobody cares more for your nation than the citizens of that nation.
Yes.
And for years in Zimbabwe, we have been quiet. And it's not our fault, we've been afraid.
Yes.
We've been afraid. And it's true. But now we demand space. We demand space for us to build our nation the way that we want to build it.
Yes.
How is it that we watch young people of other nations get involved to build their nations? And we envy them. And sometimes, like I did on April 20, 2 days after independence this year, I looked at the flag that sits on my desk and I thought to myself, it feels like my own nation is standing in the way of my dreams. And I would rather belong to another nation. If I could get a chance to become the citizen of another nation, I would do it quickly. Because I love the way that they love their country. I love the way that their 25-year-olds start multi-billion-dollar businesses. Because I love their way that their 30-year-olds are involved in politics. I love their way that their 18-year-olds represent their nation in sports, in science, in arts and culture. In our country, you and I have gotten old waiting at the door of leadership. How do you justify somebody who calls themselves a youth and they're 40 years old? So if you are a youpies at 40, I speak with passion because I love my country.
That's all right.
For years, we have thought to ourselves, one day the sun will rise, one day something different will happen. We waited sitting on the terraces. Like the story of David and Goliath, we stood for 40 days and for 40 nights, looking at a giant who every single day came out to hurl insults at us. We just didn't know what to do. But on day number 41, somebody showed up that no one expected. And in fact, on this day number 41, a generation of people showed up, and when they came, they were not even trained for war. If you know the story of David and Goliath, you will know that David was a shepherd boy. He was not a warrior. And when Saul looked at David, the question he asked him, he said, how do you come and confront this soldier? This man has been a warrior since he was a youth, and you are a youth since you were a youth. But David asked a question that nobody, for 40 days and for 40 nights, nobody had dared ask this one question. And he said, who is this? He says, who are they? And why have you let them? Everybody looked at David and they thought how. In Shona, they would look at this boy and his brothers, by the way, were at war. They were trained soldiers. I'm sure if they were Shona, and forgive me because I will slip into Shona for a little bit because it makes sense. I'm sure his brothers, his brothers' friends looked at the older brothers and they thought, that this new generation of Zimbabweans that has arisen to raise this flag high is not drunk on some substance, but we are full of passion. We are true patriots, and we desire that our nation has an honorable place amongst the nations of the world. Not anymore will we vote for members of parliament that we only see at election time. Not anymore will we elect councillors, mayors, and town clerks who put party politics before the people. Not anymore will we let the ruling classes determine our future. They have failed us and we must hold them accountable. We are not asking for anything unreasonable. We want our leaders to tell us, where is the Zimbabwe we were promised when our grandparents sent their children to deliver independence? Where is the Zimbabwe you promised us at election time in 2013? Where are the 2.2 million jobs that you said the young people of my nation would have? We have lost more jobs in this period than we have ever done in the entire history of our nation. Why does it seem that when you make a promise, on that very promise, we take great strides going back? What Zimbabwe can we promise our children? You see, sometimes when I lie at night, I'm concerned that maybe you and I have been taught to be better haters than we are better embracers of a possible future. Where is the Zimbabwe that our founding fathers fought for? What do our ancestors think when they look down at the Zimbabwe we now live in? How do we tell the unknown soldier that her sacrifice was worth it when we still live in an oppressed and afraid nation? Not anymore can they stay silent while we weep. They must answer us. They are meant to be our government, servants of the people. Is there not one among them who will answer the cries of the masses? Not one who respects us enough to give answers to our questions and not just scoff at our suffering and mutter the same recycled half-truths and lies about Western interference. Is there not one among them who cares about us? Yes, our future will be built on the backs of courageous Zimbabweans, finally, who are refusing to lie down and abdicate their rights to an uncaring, incompassionate, unjust, and immoral government. We are peaceful citizens, refusing to accept the future written for us by decades of misrule and corruption. We will choose a new way, a new path. We will add a new chapter to our book. Imagine a Zimbabwe where our future is brighter than our past. Where industry and commerce are not under attack and the laws of the country build businesses instead of hampering it. An economy that includes all of us and not just some of us. Where all of us are allowed to participate, to contribute our efforts, our talents, and our sweat. And we can all share in its rewards, not just the people at the top. A country where everyone can benefit from the mineral wealth and soil of their country. Imagine a Zimbabwe that can compete on the world stage, not just in economics, but also sports, sciences, and the arts. Imagine a Zimbabwe built by ideas, ideas that can be challenged, ideas that can be bettered, and ideas that can be implemented. Imagine a Zimbabwe that does not isolate itself and tries to shut down, of all things in a globalized world, the internet. Imagine a Zimbabwe where the dreams of our children are greater than the politics that divide us. Imagine a Zimbabwe where our children's education, their security and future is our prime concern. Where I can hope to leave my children a better society than the one that I received from my father. Imagine a Zimbabwe where our pensioners can enjoy their old age knowing that their pensions are secure. A Zimbabwe where little girls know from a young age that their dreams are no less important to us than the hopes of our sons. Amen. Imagine a Zimbabwe where we have leaders capable of motivating and inspiring our youth. Imagine a Zimbabwe where you can earn an honest wage for an honest day's work. Imagine a Zimbabwe where no one dies because the hospital was ill-equipped, where life-saving medications are easily available and affordable. Yes, as the Bible says, we are confident of this, that we will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Yes. Imagine a country where it's okay to have different views and not be persecuted for them. Where your vote counts as much as anyone else's, and your votes can actually matter, and we can use them to shape our future.
Right there.
That is the Zimbabwe that we dream of. Yes. That is